if you had asked a Jew living anywhere in the world 400 years ago, how important was it to being able to be a successful Jew, or how important was it to the thriving and survival of the Jewish nation for the Jews to have a national center in the land of Israel? Maybe some of them would have said, oh yeah, it's very important. And certainly they would have been learning that from the texts of our tradition if they had said it. But at best, it would have been a very abstract idea. And it would have required, in a sense, tremendous faith to make that statement at the time, because it was hard for someone to appreciate living in Vilna or living in India or, living wherever, what that could mean for Am Yisrael. And I think what is marvelous and so real and stunning and amazing and substantive that you now see, just at this point where it's starting to be the case that the majority of Jews in the world are living in Eretz Yisrael, is how much the fact of having a society where a majority are Jews just living in the same place, and that it's in Eretz Yisrael, that has a transformative impact on what the possibilities are. And suddenly there are all these people, all sorts of different kinds of stripes, or all sorts of, both in terms of, I don't know, take your pick, the different sort of sub-ethnicities or places they came from, the kinds of religious practice, degree of religiosity or observance or whatever you want to call it, and all of the above, that there can be a sense of unity and common connection and something that people share in, where there's all this intercommunication from one kind to another, so that in this day and age, there's a huge number of Jews in Israel who are marinated in a whole lot of Yahadut and Judaic ideas and Judaic teachings, simply by sort of passive osmosis, like it's in their surroundings and it's part of the society that they're in. And that's why, you have, I think, the Ma'amar Chazal that living in Eretz Yisrael is keneged all the other mitzvot of the Torah, that there's this reality to that just by being here, you are part of the kiyum of something at a societal level, that you can participate in to varying degrees in various ways, and you can make whatever choices you want about that. But it's very hard to imagine it before it happens. But then now that it's happened, you see it and you just say, oh, so now we're really in 3 dimensions and in full color, whereas before we were like in 2 dimensions in black and white, and we didn't even realize it as a nation, like when we were scattered and, hanging on by our fingernails and all these little crevices, making it work to the degree that it was possible in this kind of one or another kind of sporulated state in Galut. And I think to say, about Har HaBayit and the Mikdash, about the Temple Mount and the Temple, Kal v'chomer, like how much more so? To the same degree, again, like another order of magnitude or what have you, that when we talk about it now, it's like this abstraction where you can have emunah, or you can start to try to reason about what it could mean. I don't think anyone really can conceive of the kind of transformative impact it could have for there to be one place that Am Yisrael can all kind of grab onto, can actually participate in physically and inhabit, that is like the beating heart of this society that has all of these impacts on the economy, that has all of the impacts on social organization, that has all of these impacts on, you name it, music, arts and crafts, food, whatever, like produce. It is all of those things. And it's so many different ways of getting a glimpse, participating, visiting, becoming more interested, choosing the degree to which and the way, you're comfortable with relating, and now you're connected and you're a part of it. and it has so many dimensions and so much content to it. So I think that the conception of the Mikdash, we haven't been a people who have a national center of that kind for thousands of years. And so we think that it is part of our identity that we don't need that kind of thing. Because we've, in a sense, evolved or developed into a mindset and a sort of cultural attitude or position that's consistent with the facts on the ground, that such as they have been for such a long period of time. But I think just the same way that coming back to the land and being able to participate in being part of the Jewish nation in the land, it opens up these possibilities in a manner of going from 2D and black and white to 3D and Technicolor, or however you want to conceive of it. There's so many other dimensions to add that the Mikdash represents, and that, again, I think until we start to do it, we can't really imagine what the full potential can be. In the same way, it would have been very hard for someone to imagine a long time ago what it could be like in a way that many of us now can sort of just enjoy and bask in and take for granted in this current happy state where we are brought back to our land, Baruch Hashem.
It also seems like there's two possibilities in terms of how a Jew living in Eretz Yisrael, in terms of his consciousness, in what direction he could develop. One is simply saying, well, I don't really connect to the Jews and the Jewish people so much, and I'm just going to become part of the greater human Western whatever society. The other possibility is, well, I'm here, I'm Jewish, well, let's connect to Jewish things, and the Torah is an essential part of being Jewish, and the Mikdash, the temple, is a central part of being Jewish. It seems to me that the majority of Jews are moving in actually the second direction, not the first direction.
Yeah, well, again, I think the fundamental shift that would represent is that currently, mostly the idea of being religious or observant, or however you want to characterize it, in Yahadut, it's thought of in terms of what we call observance, and it's about all these halachot, all of these strictures that are about things you can't do or things you're obligated to do at certain times in your life and in your family and in your community. And of course, that's as it should be, and it would remain that way, and that is the Torah, and that's wonderful, and all those things. But what the Mikdash represents is a way of taking a huge portion of the Torah, many, many mitzvot, and turning it into something that is more elective in space and in time, meaning that if you're not in the Mikdash, then stuff happening in the Mikdash is not currently impinging on you and not having an impact on you. Or if you don't currently have a reason to be there, meaning it's not Shalosh Regalim, it's not one of those 3 times a year people go up there in mass, or it's not that you have some impulse to bring a certain kind of korban, to bring an offering, or it's not that you have some other need that's more contingent on the circumstance, then at the moment you're not plugged in. But there are times when it arises where someone feels the need and the impulse, even if in the rest of their life they're not necessarily down the line trying to go letter by letter through the Torah and make sure that they're doing right by it. So you can easily conceive of a person the same way now that there are people who love Israel, they're Jews, they live somewhere else in the world, they love Israel, they come here, and by coming here, they put themselves into a content-rich and complex world that is just teeming with the whole worldview that the Torah embodies, because it's just kind of part of everything that's going on, even amongst many people who are not themselves the direct purveyors of that stuff because of just what they're participating in. Similarly with the Mikdash, you could easily conceive of a person who most of the way they're living their life, they're not thinking moment by moment, like, how do I do this according to the Torah? How do I do that according to the Torah? And then they come up to a certain point and they say, wait, I need to do something right now. I'm going to bring an offering to the temple, or I need to do something right now. I'm going to go up because it's Sukkot and I'm going to bring some fruit there, or whatever, that it suddenly becomes a way for someone to check in and check out, which sounds like it's more conditional, but obviously what really does in the other direction is it allows people to, in ways that they find they're comfortable with, sort of calibrate their exposure to something that's very intense, and then kind of discover how to relate to it. And so I think in the long term, it presents completely different and better possibilities for the nation as a whole to grab onto different pieces of this thing and start relating to it and figuring out what part of it they can be. Also because there's just lots of different kinds of people. And, for thousands of years, we've kind of been saying to people, do you like, being very careful about complex systems of rules, or do you like, studying arcane texts and finding subtle patterns in them and deriving meaning from that? And boy, do we have something to offer you. I'm being a bit, this is a caricature. Obviously, Yadut and Torah have given generations upon generations of Jews, unfathomable richness in their lives and all of that. And if that weren't the case, then it wouldn't have survived. And nonetheless, it's also still the case that the people who held on were kinds of people who had certain inclinations given what was on offer. And there maybe were other kinds of people where the thing that would have most drawn them in would have been something that only the Mikdash can offer, because it's a completely different thing to show up to a Beit Knesset once a year for Yom Kippurim, and that's your way of kind of participating and holding on, versus to show up to a place with burning incense and the smell of roasting meat and Levim singing, where there's tapestries of many colors. I mean, these are things about what human beings are and what we're made of, and what causes us to take interest, or what causes us to rejoice, or what causes us to remember, or to feel emotions, and to have experiences that can transform us. The Mikdash is for that, and it has been offline for a very long time, but when it comes back online, B'ezrat Hashem, there's a lot of different kinds of people who they haven't been drawn by what the active parts of Torah Judaism have to offer, that might be powerfully drawn by other things that are commanded in the Torah that we just haven't been dealing with.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael, or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.